Crawford. Thank you for being here with me today. During the meeting, you mostly discussed the school finance bill, which is going through some changes in the Senate. It's unclear if they'll be fully passed into law, but one thing you specifically talked about was the basic allotment. So let me ask you, what number would you like to see the basic allotment go to, and what could this Senate bill potentially mean for the future of Tyler ISD?
Yeah, I didn't think that the basic allotment would get a $55 increase. They started out with a $250 approximately increase. And when I was testifying in Austin, they said, well, what number do you think it should be? Because some of the representatives on the education committee were a little upset that I didn't ask for, $1,500 increase. And I said, well, I don't know, try doubling it. So I thought that maybe we could go for the $450 or so, and certainly that's what the House bill ballparked it at. And I thought that was a very respectable shot at trying to increase the basic allotment. But a $55 increase on the basic allotment on the Senate bill is just not going to make a dent inside of what we need. It's like shooting a BB at a tank.
What makes you say that?
Well, obviously the basic allotment hasn't gone up since 2019, and that is where we pay some of our soft costs from. Some of the things that are fixed, like our electricity and water and things that we have to do to keep the lights on, are certainly something that we have to pay for, and that represents 15% of our budget. But as far as being able to provide compensation increases for other than classroom teachers, that's where the basic allotment really does come into play. We are very efficient in how we expend our dollars, and we're going to find a way to give our people compensation increases. But certainly as far as the state's budget goes, we certainly would like to see a little bit more in the basic allotment so that we can accomplish those goals.
There's also been discussion about increasing teacher pay raises. If the Senate has a discussion, should we go more towards the basic allotment, or should we go more towards teacher raises? How would you weigh in on that argument?
Well, teacher compensation is a priority. It is the priority. There's no doubt about it. That's where the outcomes are impacted inside of those classrooms, and they need it. It's tough to teach right now. It's not only just tough to teach right now economically, but politically and socially. We need to champion our school teachers, and one way to show that championing of them is to provide an increase of their compensation in a meaningful way. They need to be able to feel proud about this profession and be able to go home and take care of their families and take care of themselves while they're doing God's work inside of our classrooms.
House Bill 4, it would remove the STAR test. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great plan. Speaking locally here in Tyler ISD, we already do through-year testing. We embrace assessment. Assessment is part of our academic culture. So if we're going to switch from a one test on one day to 2 to 3 to 4 small assessments throughout the year so that we can adjust on the fly what those student needs are going to be and what those classroom needs are going to be, I think that's going to be a win for not only Texas school districts but Texas students and their parents.
Have you heard a discussion from faculty at Tyler ISD who are particularly advocating for this bill, who are against it? Have you heard anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a former teacher myself, and as the chief education officer of this school system, I don't think you're ever going to get just a classroom teacher to really say, yes, high stakes testing is what we got into this for. But at the same time, I think they do value wanting to see student growth. We have a lot of things that are attached to student growth, not just the A through F accountability system, but also the teacher incentive allotment, which is actually proven to be a pretty big win here in Tyler ISD because it deals with teacher compensation as it directly attaches to student growth. So I think if you can marry those things in assessment, I think you're going to see some more benefits and maybe some more support from inside of our teaching faculty as opposed to being oppositional.
It's been several weeks since school vouchers were signed into law. How have your thoughts changed, if at all, since that signing by Governor Greg?
It's concerning statewide, but here locally, and that's what I'm concerned about being the superintendent of schools in Tyler ISD. We have great relationships with all the different educational offerings that we do have here in Tyler, whether it be homeschool, the charter schools, or private schools. We go to church with those families. We trade students from year to year. Faculty comes in and out of here from the private schools to the public setting. And so I don't think there's going to be a whole lot that's going to change. For one, there's not a whole lot of headroom inside of our local private schools to accept an increased amount of students. But at the same time, we just got to compete. no matter what the rules of the game are, we can't sit here and lament on everything that's been done in Austin. We have to compete, and that's the way we're going to attack this voucher era that we're living in, is making sure that we're doing the very best we possibly can, not just to have great academic outcomes, but making sure that the student and the parent experience in Tyler ISD are what they want it to be.
When you look at the potential for this legislative session and just the current state of Tyler ISD, how do you feel about the financial situation?
Well, it's financial situation for Tyler ISD, we're going to always manage our finances in a fiscally conservative manner. We've done that for the last 25 to 30 years and proven successful on that. We'll continue to do that. It does make it awfully difficult throughout the years. We can only tighten our belt so much. We can only be as efficient so much because we do worry about student outcomes, and a lot of the things that we've built our compensation package around, our budget around, is student outcomes, and we don't want to affect those. Most importantly, we don't want to affect the student experience.
Last bill I want to ask you about is Senate Bill 10, which would mandate the 10 Commandments be placed in public school classrooms. That still needs to be voted on in the House and pass the Senate. What are your thoughts on that legislation?
Well, I think it's a flashpoint right now in the political climate that we live in. There's no doubt about that. Certainly we have "In God We Trust" signs. It's a national motto at every one of our school buildings already, and that was a legislative action a few years ago. We've complied with that. We'll comply with whatever comes down the pike as well. And last time I looked at the 10 Commandments, there's a lot of good things in that that can span different religions about how you treat people. And posting those inside of classrooms, I don't think is going to be an issue, because being reminded to not do certain things that are inhumane to other humans, it's a good reminder. And we need a little bit of that every now and then throughout our day.